Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to discuss an article written by one Niall Gardner, a conservative writer, concerning the top 10 conservative movies of the last decade. I discovered this article on the Metafilter blog, which is a blog I visit every day, and it's one of the best signal-to-noise ratio discussions of people discussing topical news pieces, science discoveries, things like that. It has a lot of intelligent discourse that people come to talk about, and I will post a link to the actual discussion of this article as well, because I think some of the comments that the people in the article, in the comment thread made were entertaining and made some very good points. Now, I haven't seen all of these films, so I can't give you a blow-by-blow comment on all of them. Master and Commander, I didn't see that, so I can't really tell you. Black Hawk Down is being viewed as a good conservative film. Now, it discusses a military failure, so I'm not really sure why it's being viewed as a good conservative film. It's a little mystery on my part. The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, they were enjoyable. I saw all of them in the theater. I have not seen them since the theater, but I will eventually own all three of them on DVD as soon as I can find them cheap. I'm not going to pay much for them because I don't pay much for any kind of DVD I buy. Considering as a perfectly fitting a post-9/11 world where the forces of freedom found themselves pitted against a barbaric enemy. I'm not really sure how he achieved that particular point of view, because I'm just not seeing the parallels. He's viewing the movie Gladiator, an enjoyable, though flawed and historically inaccurate film, sort of uncompromising movie experience guaranteed to send pacifists and lily-livered liberals running for the exits. I'm a rather left-leaning progressive, and I wasn't in the least stunned by the Gladiator. To me, it's a really good example of, an oppressive society that forces people in the bottom social strata to fight to the death. I think it's a really wonderful mechanism for the failure of a government and the rampant and unrestrained capitalism as a really bad thing. But, that's just me. The Pursuit of Happiness, which is the story of Will Smith and his son having fallen through every social net there is, fighting his way up and eventually securing a livelihood for he and his child. And of course, being Will Smith, it deals with one of our generation's better black actors. And inspiring and often deeply moving tribute to the American dream and one of the great conservative movies of this generation. Except I saw it as a wonderful example of how we don't have the social nets that America desperately needs to take care of those in the lowest economic strata. I see it as a failure of our system and not an example of the American dream. The Dark Knight, this one also confuses me. He is unwavering in his determination to defeat his adversary, whatever the cost. Except Batman lost that movie. The Joker won. Joker kills the woman he loves, frames Batman essentially for his own crimes by creating Two-Face, and I cannot perceive how that is seen as a conservative victory unless they are discussing the concept of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, when then again that is a core conservative view. The Hurt Locker, which deals with bomb removal crews in Iraq, a film I haven't seen yet, but I desperately want to. I missed it at the theaters. Now, I can see it as a solid anti-war film, but I can't view it as a conservative film. I just don't understand this person's point of view. And we have the 300 listed. Now, I've heard a comment in the thread about this, said that the 300 was a great example of a movie that is both homophobic and homoerotic at the same time. So maybe that explains why the writer is viewing this as a great conservative film. I'm not really sure, because remember, the 300 all die. So I don't see how that is supposed to be a good conservative viewpoint. And then, of course, we have the honorable mentions, and there is no surprise here. There is the Passion of the Christ, which is one of the better examples in the market in the last decade of sectarian torture porn, something I wanted nothing to do with. And this one confuses me quite possibly the most, and that would be Juno. Juno is fundamentally a pro-choice film, even though the Planned Parenthood scene in the movie is almost a perfect anti-choice commercial. Ultimately, the character of Juno decides to have a baby and put it up for adoption, because if you are pro-choice, that means you have options. One of those options is abortion. One of those options is birth control. One of those options is adoption. She, having failed at birth control and deciding against abortion, chose adoption. Hence, the old concept behind the term pro-choice. But he makes one very poignant comment in this article. These are all brilliant movies that conservatives can be inspired by and which are guaranteed to offend left-wing sensibilities in one way or another. And to my mind, that seems to be the real heart of this article. The need to offend. It isn't just enough to be right. It isn't just enough to tell your point of view in a poignant manner. You must piss off the people that you have cast as your enemy. There must be an enemy. White, black, good, bad, up, down. There can be no shades of gray. There can be no consensus. There can be no compromise. There must be the white hats and the black hats. And if you aren't on one team, then you are on another, which is a rather simplistic view of the world and fundamentally childish. So this need to be the offender strikes me as very much the kind of attitude I would expect from someone who was a bright fourth grader, someone capable of understanding what's going on around them, but they haven't figured out how to really solve the problems, so they're just going to piss people off and make a name for themselves. I guess if that's your goal, it isn't hard to achieve, but also it isn't really going to solve any problems. Now, is it?